Washington Journal continues.
Congressman Devin Nunes, Republican of California, good morning. Thanks very much for being with us here on
My pleasure,
C-SPAN.
Steve. Thank you.
Is there anything in this House bill that you like?
No, I mean, I think this is really a socialism, and I think they've used totalitarian tactics in order to enact it. I mean, we'll see today if they get the votes, but it's very close, right on the margin.
Do they have the votes? Do the Democrats have enough to pass?
I think as of right now, they don't. I mean, if you look at it, I think it's in, I was just watching a little bit earlier, but you were showing a little diagram of, you know, there's actually more committed no votes than they have committed yes votes.
About 209 firm no votes, 193 firm yes votes, and about 25 or 26 that are swinging. They need 23 of those 26.
Right. And so what that tells me is that they are right on the margin, and that people don't want to be for this bill. This is a partisan bill. This is you know, it's not just about taking over 1/6 of our economy, but it's also, when I say totalitarian tactics, it's about, you know, this is a fight amongst Democrats. Republicans have never been have been offered to even be engaged in this process. So the Democrats are really attempting something here that goes beyond what we should be doing in a republic.
But when the president put forth his stimulus plan last year, no Republican support on that either. And Leader Boehner and Leader McConnell have been saying their biggest accomplishment last year was being in firm opposition to so many of the president's agenda items. Is there fault on both sides in terms of bipartisanship?
Well, no, because, and I can't speak for the leadership, but I can speak from my situation. When you ask me to vote for a stimulus bill that spent $2 billion, if you look per congressional district, and my district will only see a few crumbs of that money. So it's, you know, how many jobs was I going to be able to create? And I think we've seen how well the stimulus bills worked. It hasn't worked at all. I mean, look, if it was as easy that everybody could just get a job with the government and we could just spend money here and create jobs and everybody could be taken care of, you know, it'd be a pretty good policy, it'd be pretty easy to enact. And the problem is the people that are running this government now believe that. So we went from bailouts, and you know, I'll grant you that was done with, at least with a Republican president and a Democratic-controlled Congress. Then we did a $1 trillion stimulus bill. We did a huge omnibus bill. We've grown the budget to where now we have $1.5 trillion budget for, you know, for the ever foreseeable future. And now we're doing a government takeover of health care, which is probably likely going to be a $2 to $3 trillion cost on this bill when it's all said and done.
If this bill passes the House today, then goes to the Senate, will it become law? Or
if it passes the House today, it will become law.
You don't see any way that the Senate Republicans would block this?
Well, the Senate Republicans will do all they can in their power, but because they're going to use this reconciliation process, which is unprecedented, by the way, for a you know, the bill of this size, where they went, you know, dropped the 60-vote threshold down to 51. I just don't see how the Republicans can you know,
but what about an amendment process? What about Republicans putting forth a series of amendments on each step?
The last thing that I read is they had 20 or so potential amendments, but you know, they'd have to actually get one to pass. I just don't see the likelihood of that happening.
Our phone lines are open at 202-737-0002. That's our line for Democrats, and 202-737-0001 for Republicans. You can also send us an email at journal@cspan.org. Can you give us a sense of the flavor of the debate on the floor and what you're hearing? A lot of angry comments yesterday aimed at a couple of your colleagues, including Barney Frank and Congressman John Lewis, using the N-word as some of the protesters jeered at him as he walked through the halls of the Capitol.
Yeah, well, I think that when you use totalitarian tactics, people you know, begin to act crazy, and I think, you know, there's people that have every right to say what they want. If they want to smear someone, they can do it. It's not appropriate, and I think I would stop short of characterizing the 20,000 people who are protesting that all of them were doing that. I mean,
those are just some of the stories, just some of the
yeah, of course, and I think that the left loves to play up a couple incidents here or there. Anything to draw attention away from what they are really doing. And that is that they have 250-some Democrats in the House. They need 216 Democrats. They don't have them. They're buying votes. Last night at midnight, the Rules Committee finished. And for the first time, you know, it's called Slaughterhouse Rules now, named after the chairwoman of the committee. But this is the first Congress in the history where we haven't had an open rule in the entire Congress. Okay, and I don't want to get stuck on procedure here, but they've never even allowed Republicans to offer amendments. And today's rule that the health care bill is under, that's jokingly being called the Supermax rule, because we have no ability to offer any amendments to even ask the chair anything during the debate. So, and the debate's going to be, I think it's only an hour of debate time for a 1/6 takeover of our economy. This is some crazy totalitarian tactics that they're engaged in.
So you think that the vote could happen as early as 2 o'clock or in the 2 o'clock hour?
Sounds like we come into session at 1, and I think that if they have the votes, they will quickly get to the bill. If they don't have the votes, then you'll see this go on into the night until they can buy more votes in order to pass it.
We'll get to your phone calls. Good morning. Where are you phoning from?
Dadeville, Alabama.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes. I called mainly because I'm really tired of, as a Republican, well, I'm a conservative. I'm not sure about the Republican thing, but I'm tired of hearing this, the Republicans vote no, 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 no. And the fact is that the Democrats could have passed this thing through the first go if they'd wanted to. They had a supermajority in the Senate, and they had a very supermajority in Congress. So I'm really tired of hearing that no, no, no thing about Republicans.
Thanks for the call. We're getting a little bit of an echo, but you get the essence of this point.
I think the caller, that's exactly what I was talking about. I mean, this is to even make claims that the Republicans are somehow using dilatory tactics or somehow saying no, 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 no. We've never even given a chance to say yes. So the caller is exactly right that you know, they have 253 votes, is it today, and they need 216 to pass the bill. So any talk of Republicans being partisan is simply silly.
Your Republican colleague, Representative Gao of Louisiana, did support the initial bill. Will he vote for it today?
I don't think so.
He was the only Republican vote for it.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, the votes are very fluid. I can't imagine he would, especially with the abortion language in there. I mean, you know, I think most people in this country agree on one thing about abortion, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life. But there is one agreement that most people have, most Americans have, and that is that they don't want taxpayer money to be used to fund abortion. You know, they don't want our tax dollars being used to kill unborn children. And this is going to make it legal. And I can't imagine that Congressman Gao or Bart Stupak or the others will vote for it.
And you're Catholic?
I'm Catholic, yeah, I'm pro-life. But I'm even saying even if you're not pro-life, a lot of people that are pro-choice don't tend to want their taxpayer dollars used to fund abortion.
But even within the Catholic Church, you have the Catholic bishops who have come down very strongly against this bill, saying just what you're saying, that it will fund abortion. You have nuns and Catholic hospitals saying that this bill will help children and older Americans who don't have insurance, and they support the bill for that reason.
Well, the leadership of the church is through the bishop structure, not through other organizations. I mean, there's organizations that use Catholic in their name, but really they're leftist groups. And I'm not saying that the Catholic hospitals are leftist, but there are, there's elements of left-wing politics in every part of our country and every part of the character of our makeup of our country. The key is can we keep the left from running the government? And it appears that, if this bill passes today, that this will move us into a European socialistic type of state.
Our guest is Representative Devin Nunes. He's a Republican from California. Bonnie is joining us on the Republican line from Street, Maryland. Good morning to you.
Yes, I have a comment and a question,
Sure.
so please let me finish. First, the government interfered with the House, and we had a collapse. Then they interfered with the bankings. They take them over every day. Now they want to take over the health care. And my question is, because I've asked it more than once, with all this lost revenue from the foreclosures and the closing of banks, where is the money going to come from, the revenue, to pay for this health care? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's not a right to force everybody to have health care. If you need it, there is a way to get it, because at local governments, they're taxing us to death to pay for people that can't afford it. So why is it the federal government's responsibility to step in and override the states to take our money?
Thanks, Bonnie. We'll get a response.
Yeah, the country cannot afford it. And when you hear them say things, when I say them, the Democrats say things like that, well, this is paid for, and CBO scores this, and it's going to save $1.3 trillion over 10 years. It's not true. What they've done is they've used gimmicks in order to get this scoring. Nobody honestly believes in America that you can take two broken government programs, Medicaid and Medicare, that are totally broke, that everyone knows are tens of trillions of dollars in the hole, in the red, and then take 30 million people that are uninsured in this country right now and give them government-run insurance and think that that's not going to cost anything. It's not believable, and it's not true. If you believe that, I like to say this, if you believe that this isn't going to cost the government anything, then you're likely to see leprechauns riding on unicorns with pots of gold circling the Capitol.
That's an interesting analogy.
Well, for St. Patrick's Day week, I thought it was appropriate. We could probably switch to the Easter Bunny now that Easter's coming up.
We'll go to Steve joining us from Daytona Beach, Florida, Independent Line. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm a veteran, and I got to say, most of my life I was a Republican, and I believe when Bill Clinton was in, he helped veterans who did not have 20 years and who were not injured get insurance, which helped me out, and I benefit from it today. And it's government insurance, and I actually love it. It's the best health care I've ever had in my life, to be honest with you. And it's sad that the Republicans, they throw all these fear tactics at the general public. And it's ridiculous how, I mean, it's almost too liberal the way they do it, and they're supposed to be the conservatives. And I'd just like to say that I am for the health care, and I'm very happy of what President Barack Obama is doing. And thank you very much.
Steve, let me ask you, what do you pay for your health care?
Right now I have minimal bills of co-payments, you know, and it's, you know, $5, $10. Sometimes it's, you know, a little bit higher for things.
But do you pay a monthly premium as well?
No, I do not. I pay for certain times when I have to go there, things like that, you know, and for, you know, I have like one of these CPAP machines for sleep apnea. They did a very, you know, extensive research on my sleep apnea, and it's been very helpful for me. And whenever I have a problem, you know, I go to the VA clinic and they take care of me.
Okay.
And it's pretty much the same thing congressmen have, and I don't see why, you know, so many friends of mine, I have a child that's not insured, and so many family members not insured, why they cannot have the same insurance that congressmen have and that I have.
Steve will get a response. Thanks for the call.
Well, first I would start and say that we're not using fear tactics. If you are fearful for what's happening in America right now, you should be. And that is because that although the gentleman has veterans benefits, the problem with the veterans benefits has been that the VA hospitals continue to be inefficient, continue to spend more money every year, and the Congress has always been very generous to make sure that anyone who has served in the military has access to health care. But I deal with constant issues dealing with veterans and their health care benefits. And why? Because it's a government-run health care program. And so, you know, it's easy to sit there and say, well, you have all these problems and you're not paying for any of them. And I'm sure that if we could just give money to everyone, sprinkle it out, like I made the joke about the leprechaun earlier or the Easter bunny, but there's no free lunch in this world, and especially not anymore. We're going to run $1.5 trillion deficit this year and every year hereafter. And now is not the time to be taking and creating a new government-run healthcare system when we know that Medicaid, government-run, broke. Medicare, government-run, broke. And what are they doing to both of those? They're putting more people to Medicaid in this bill, and they're going to actually cut Medicare Advantage. So if you're on Medicare Advantage right now, that's going to be cut, and there's going to be more people being on basic Medicare. And then if you look at the veterans benefits, it's not being touched in this bill, but this is those programs don't work well either. So as much as we would like to have for everyone to have health care, it just can't happen. What we should be doing is the federal government should be leaving this to the states, and the states should be working with local communities. We need less government, not more. We need less taxes, not more. And the more that we tax and the more that we create big government programs, the worse off our country will be in the long run.
What impact will this bill have on California?
Oh, it's disastrous. I mean, if you look at Medicaid, only 20% of the doctors in my district will see Medicaid patients. 20%. And now you're going to double the number of people that are going to be on Medicaid in this bill. My doctors are going to quit. They can't afford to operate the way they are now. And one of the things that's not even in this bill is, you know how they love to say that the bill scores 0. In fact, it doesn't. Medicare right now is shorting doctors. Doctors are supposed to get a 25% cut right now. And that fix is not in this bill. When you add this back into the bill, even using the Democrats' rosy little gimmicks, the bill goes into a negative score.
Mary is joining us, Republican line from Florida. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Hello?
Yes, you're on the air from St. Augustine. Good morning.
Yeah, I wanted to make the point someone had said earlier that they had passed the prescription for the elderly a few years ago, but they didn't pay for it. That was one part of the health care bill, just a small part. This is a major one. So what I want to know is, since there are no Republicans supporting this, most of the independents are not supporting this, is there any way to have a bill that the Democrats are the ones with their families and their kids for future generations, and the unions that support them are the ones to pay for this?
Well, that's been one of the many of the proposals that we offered in the committee structure. But I want to go back to this totalitarian tactics that they're using to bring on this new era of socialism that we talked about earlier. And that is that we can't even offer an amendment like that. We'd love to offer amendments that would be creative, that would maybe exempt certain states. Some of the senators have been able to exempt certain states in the original Senate bill from things, when you had the Louisiana Purchase, when you had a bailout for Louisiana, when you had the Cornhusker kickback. These were all tactics that were used to buy votes. And they're really tactics that are anti-democratic. And so I don't know if this bill is going to pass today or not. My bet is that they'll eventually buy enough votes to get the votes. But there's no way to change this bill. We have the way that they've structured the rule until midnight last night. For the first time ever, we have a rule like this. And it's a very dangerous situation that we're in.
We'll go to Ann from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Good morning. Welcome to the Washington Journal.
Yes, I would like to ask the representative, since he's a Republican, is how come they have not come up with some kind of a bill to take care of the working people that has worked all their lives and cannot afford health care? People that work should be able to afford health care.
Well, I would say this, that we have, in fact, come up with plans. Matter of fact, Congressman Paul Ryan from Wisconsin, myself, Senator Burr, and Senator Coburn, we introduced the very first bill that we introduced back in May of last year. But yet that bill never saw the light of day, and the only time that you hear the Democrats talk about it is when they love to demagogue the Republicans and say they don't have a plan, and the plans they do have, they just dismiss as not being a real plan. And I think the difference that we have in this country right now is this, that the Democratic Party is really no longer the Democratic Party. It's getting more like a socialist party, where they believe that you can operate things out of here in Washington, D.C. And the Republicans believe in the individual, they believe in states' rights, and they believe that you should go to your town, your city, your county, and your state in that order, not look to Washington, D.C. to solve all your problems. And when you look at what does this bill do? They're creating 4 agencies back here, 4 boards that will essentially decide how your health care will be given to you when everyone is under this government-run health care program. That is very, very dangerous. If any of you out there have ever had to deal with the federal government on any issue, you know it is the worst possible position when you're trying to get a hold of your congressman or getting a hold of some federal agency to try to get help for you or your family. You do not want the government involved in your health care system.
You can join the conversation online at twitter.com/cspanwj. And among those weighing in, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, who has just posted this comment. He writes that Pelosi and Reid claim the health care bill does not fund abortions. This is a lie, he says.
Yeah, it is a lie. It's because they're subsidizing the insurance plans that will then be used. It'll be government subsidies, and you'll be able to get abortion with those plans. So this is the first time in history that we are going to be funding abortion.
So whether you support or oppose the bill, is the abortion language the biggest sticking point for the Democrats right now in terms of passage or failure?
Well, I don't know because I don't have their whip count. I think with the abortion language, there's only about 4 or 5 when you look at the Bart Stupaks that are really holding firm on that. So, there's it's such a moving target right now that they're just doing anything. They're not even close to having the votes, but what they've been doing is buying the votes one by one, as evidenced by how many people have been out there that are saying their no's, definite no's, and the people who are unwilling to say that they're definite yeses. It's not like we haven't had enough time to see how this program works and to debate this. I mean, we've been doing this for almost 1.5 years. We've wasted 1.5 years' time when people are unemployed. We have the highest unemployment in generation. Our economy is in shambles, and we're trying to overhaul a healthcare system that, quite frankly, is not perfect, but better than anywhere else in the world.
2 nay votes announced late yesterday, according to National Journal. One is Jim Matheson of Utah. The other is Zach Space of Ohio. 2 late yes votes, Dennis Cardoza of California, from your state, your colleague, and Chris Carney, who's also Catholic, saying yes, he will support the bill. He's a Democrat from Pennsylvania. Yeah,
well, Dennis Cardoza's always been a yes. He's from California, and that's one that the speaker's had in the bag for a long time. And Carney, I think that's a very dangerous vote for him. He's from a very conservative district, and I honestly don't see how he returns to Congress.
Matt is joining us from Amherst, Ohio, Democrats line. We're talking with Devin Nunes, Republican from California. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. You pointed out that unemployment is down, but then you're telling us that we should be going to the city, county, and state to get our medical. But with the unemployment, there is no money in these states, as your state is having financial troubles. How do you cover that? One other thing I wanted to find out, if this bill fails, would you guys be willing to give up your health insurance that you have until you come up with something for everyone in the United States?
Well, I'd be willing to give up anything to stop this from happening. This is a very dangerous step towards socialism. And what I said when I was talking about going to the city, counties, state government, is that's just how government should work. Our founding fathers believed that this was a democratic republic, not a monarchy, not a socialist society, not a Marxist society, not one where you can control 300 million people, control the masses from big white buildings here in Washington, D.C. We know that government health care programs run from Washington, D.C. do not work. As much as people like Medicare, Medicare's not working today. I mean, people that are on it may like it, but most docs are seeing fewer and fewer Medicare patients, and Medicare has tens and tens of trillions of dollars in debt that we refuse to recognize in this country. And it is going to bankrupt this country in the next coming years if we don't do something about it.
You're generating a lot of interest online from many of your colleagues, including Congressman Greg Walden, who says Speaker Pelosi's rule blocks all GOP amendments from House consideration, including mine, that would give rural medical providers input on medical plans.
Yeah, no, they're cutting. Rural hospitals have always had a problem. And this is the problem. You get disparities when you begin to pick winners and losers here in Washington, D.C. And many times the rural communities in America lose. I will say that Greg Walden, I'm surprised he's watching C-SPAN. I know he's up late last night watching the Rules Committee, so I'm glad that he's watching me.
We'll go next to Bill from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Good morning, Republican line.
Good morning, folks. I have tried vis-a-vis the internet, periodicals, and to the best that I can to update myself with all the knowledge possible in this bill, which approaches 2,000 pages. And I have a few questions, one of which is, if there's 35 million plus or minus people uninsured, and then there's also 35 million plus or minus people out of work, to me, it would seem that that would be the much more important situation, is putting people back to work, first of all. Then if you did pass health care, you have 35 million people. How many of those people do not want to be mandated to be insured? And then there's also the people for whom can't afford insurance, who pays their premiums? How do the premiums get paid? And also, one big question I had, and these are all things that I've tried to look up and I can't find in the minutia of the bill, is a big question is tort reform, and is that a big reason that would help make this bill work? I mean, I'm all in favor of everybody getting health insurance. It's just, it seems like President Obama's priorities need to reflect change as his government policies change and become of more priority and more importance. I'd like to have your comments, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, it goes back to what I said a little bit ago. We squandered almost a year and a half of the Obama administration. The Obama administration came in with a mandate, 60 votes in the Senate, a supermajority, 256 votes in the House. They never had to work with Republicans. They really never tried. And now here we are trying to take over the health care system nearly a year and a half in when people are out of work. The economy is very, very weak. Banks are not loaning money. The government's taken over the car companies. They've taken over the banks. We're at a very dangerous slope that we're on if this bill passes today, where we create 4 new institutions within Washington to control everyone's health care in this country. It is a step in a very dangerous direction, and especially using the totalitarian tactics that are being used by this majority, where they're not allowing any amendments from Republicans, and really they're fighting amongst themselves to find the votes.
Our guest, Devin Nunes, represents the San Joaquin and Fresno area of California from the 21st Congressional District. Next is Steve from Berkeley, California, on the independent line. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, hi. Yeah, Steve and Congressman Nunes, it's a pleasure talking with you. How are you guys today?
Doing well. It's early out there in Berkeley.
I tell you what, it's beautiful out here in California, and we're not too far from Fresno too. But anyway, no, basically, you know, the thing about it is like Congressman Nunes, I'm Republican registration, although I vote independent most of the time. But I'm one of the things about, and I also happen to be Catholic like him too. And the thing about it is what I find lacking in the Republican Party right now is that a society shows its greatness by how it takes care of the least of us.
Yeah, and that's why the Republicans do have plans. The plan that I talked about earlier that Paul Ryan and Senators Burr and Coburn and I introduced, we actually offer universal access to coverage, but we do it by decentralizing the government, letting the power rest with you, letting the power rest with the individual, not with the politicians and the bureaucrats here in Washington. We know where that's gotten us. We know how the government programs that have been tried and how they've worked. Despite the fact that a lot of people may think that they're working fine because people continue to say they're working fine, but the reality of it is, if you really look at the budget numbers, they're not. We have $12 trillion in debt right now that we owe. That does not include $50 to $80 trillion that we are pretending does not exist. It's kind of like having a subprime mortgage on your home, keep adding to the debt and never have to pay more. Eventually that bill's going to come due, and that's how, you know, really we're struggling with that right now, because our homes went up so fast. We made so many bad loans, and you have a recession, and look what it's caused.
Can I ask you 2 prediction questions?
Sure.
Short term today, what's going to happen?
I assume they pass the bill by 1 vote.
Midterm elections.
Oh, it's too early for that, but I think it's pretty hard to see how the Republicans don't pick up at least 25 seats in the House and 5 to 8 in the Senate.
Devin Nunes, representative from California's 21st Congressional District, member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll continue the conversation with Javier Becerra, who's joining us in just a couple of minutes to get his perspective from the Democratic side of the aisle. But first, another update.